Welcome to this educational module on preventing jockey injuries by Dr. Peta Hitchens. This module is a production of the J.D. Wheat Orthopedic Research Laboratory at the University of California at Davis School of Veterinary Medicine through support from the Jockey Club. Dr. Peta Hitchens completed her Ph.D. on the epidemiology of jockey falls, injuries, and fatalities at the University of Tasmania. Dr. Hitchens completed a postdoctoral fellowship at Dr. Sue Stover's Veterinary Orthopedic Research Laboratory at UC Davis, where she was the first to identify catastrophic injury to the horse as the leading cause of jockey injury. Dr. Hitchens is currently lead equine veterinary epidemiologist at the University of Melbourne's Equine Orthopedic Research Group. She has published over 30 peer-reviewed scientific articles, most of which are related to jockey or racehorse injury. Dr. Hitchens' full biography is available at the end of this presentation.
Welcome to this educational module on preventing jockey falls. This module will enhance your knowledge of the circumstances that lead to jockey falls in flat racing, as well as their associated injuries, fatalities, and insurance costs. Armed with the knowledge in this education module, you can help to prevent jockey falls by understanding the most common reasons for their occurrence and the risk factors that increase their likelihood of occurring. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to appreciate the risks taken by jockeys in their profession, list the most common reasons for jockey falls and injuries, list the key risk factors for jockey falls and injuries, and identify types of racehorses that contribute to an increased risk of jockey falls. Riding racehorses is one of the highest risk occupations and sports in the world. Studies have shown that the fatality rate is second only to deep-sea fishing. In the United States, there are approximately 2 jockey fatalities each year. Since 1977, 24 paralysed jockeys have received benefits from the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund and/or the Jockeys Guild, and those programs do not cover all jockeys who may have sustained such injuries. Jockey fall rates have been reported in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Great Britain, Ireland and France, and in California in the United States. The incidence of jockey falls, injuries and fatalities in flat racing is similar in each country. In California, for example, an incidence of about 2 falls per 1,000 race rides equates to approximately 1 fall every 500 rides in thoroughbred flat racing. Jockey falls are more common in quarter horse racing than in thoroughbred racing. In California, jockeys competing in quarter horse races fall more often, on average 3 falls per 1,000 race rides, or, alternatively, every 340 race rides. In California, the majority of jockey falls occur during the race or when leaving the starting gates. A smaller proportion occur before the race, such as in the paddock or post-parade, or after the winning post. In Californian quarter horse racing, the jockey falls that occur after the race are almost as common as those that occur during the race. Falls that occur on leaving the starting gates are also frequent. Overall, the most common cause of jockey falls is due to the horse they are riding sustaining a catastrophic injury or sudden death. Studies have shown that jockeys are over 160 times more likely to fall when riding a horse that dies in a race. We also know that the incidence of catastrophic injury to horses during training is high. Thus, training injuries are likely to contribute substantially to the incidence of jockey and exercise rider injuries. Consequently, efforts to reduce racehorse injuries that occur in both training and racing should subsequently lead to a reduction in jockey falls and injuries. Other modules in this series cover risk factors for racehorse injury, as well as the importance of recognizing that pre-existing pathological conditions commonly precede catastrophic injury in the racehorse. It is vital to understand the link between racehorse and jockey injuries, and most importantly, to understand that risks taken during a racehorse's training or racing program might adversely affect their jockey or exercise rider. Jockey falls most commonly occurred when racehorses sustained distal forelimb injuries, particularly fetlock, carpal, and metacarpal injuries. These racehorse injuries result in the highest frequency of jockey falls, largely because of the high prevalence of these injuries. Horse fatalities related to sudden death, as well as bilateral, multiple, or axial catastrophic musculoskeletal injury, also frequently result in a jockey fall or injury. These types of horse fatalities may typically involve the horse collapsing to the track. The impact velocities of falls by jockeys, with the addition of the jockey falling with the horse, and a chance of being crushed or struck by that horse, or others following, puts the jockey at a very high risk of injury. Other common causes of jockey falls include the horse's behaviour, such as bucking, shying, rearing, or bolting, followed by the horse stumbling, getting too close to a horse in front and subsequently clipping heels, shifting ground abruptly, or being hampered by another fallen horse or rider. For jockey falls that occur prior to the race commencing, more than 90% are caused by the horse's behaviour. Ensuring that racehorses are acclimatised to race day conditions, as well as to the starting gates, will help prevent those jockey injuries that are a result of the horse's fractious behaviour. Jockeys are over 170 times more likely to be injured when riding a horse that dies in a race. Jockey falls that are a direct result of catastrophic injury or death of the horse are the most serious. About 2/3 of such falls result in an injury to the jockey that requires transportation to hospital or being stood down from riding for the rest of the race day. Other falls, caused by various other reasons, although also important, are normally not as serious in nature. Therefore, our best efforts to prevent injuries to racehorses should in turn lead to a reduction in injuries and fatalities to the jockeys that ride them. In California, from 2007 to 2012, insurance claims that were a result of a horse that broke down averaged more than $100,000 per claim. This compares to the average cost of claims related to any type of jockey fall of about $20,000 per claim. The cost of exercise rider injuries is also high, exceeding the total cost of jockey injuries and averaging more than $28,000 per claim. 35% of exercise rider injuries occurred while galloping or breezing. Over 60% of the costs of exercise rider injuries that resulted in an insurance claim were due to the fractious behaviour of the horse they were riding, for example, spooking, rearing, or flipping over both on and off the track. A jockey or exercise rider that has been paralysed can easily lead to a loss of more than $6 million. Claims that involve a serious head injury, both involving a single incident or cumulative trauma, can easily lead to claims that reach $1 million or more. Not only do these injuries cost the industry financially, they also have substantial social and emotional costs. It is important to remember that reducing such injuries will benefit the entire industry, not only the riders affected. The risk factors identified are not independent of each other. Thus, if a jockey ticks multiple high-risk category boxes, be it their own level of experience and the horse they are riding, the risk will be cumulative. Most importantly, inexperienced jockeys riding less accomplished or less experienced horses are at the greatest risk. Those responsible for the rides that apprentice jockeys are assigned, be it trainers, race day officials or jockey agents, must keep in mind the jockey's experience level. Consideration should be given to whether an apprentice jockey with little race riding experience, particularly if they have had less than 250 career race rides, should be riding a maiden horse that has not yet won a race or that has had fewer than 5 previous race starts. Sprint races, particularly those run on dry, fast tracks, are also higher risk for jockeys, and more so for apprentices. Most likely because these types of races are conducted at faster speeds, with horses galloping tightly, in close proximity to each other. This results in jockeys having less time and room to manoeuvre between horses. These racing conditions would also be more difficult for both inexperienced riders and less accomplished horses. In reviewing what we have learned in this module on prevention of jockey falls in flat racing, we know that jockeys riding in quarter horse races are at higher risk of falls and injuries than jockeys riding in thoroughbred races. The majority of jockey falls occur during the race, and these falls are often the most serious in nature, requiring hospitalisation or being stood down from riding for the rest of the race day. Jockey falls that occur before the race or in the starting gates are mostly due to the fractious behaviour of the horse. Inexperienced jockeys riding inexperienced or less accomplished horses are at high risk of falling. Jockey falls and injuries are most commonly caused by horse breakdown or sudden death. The costs of jockey injuries associated with horse breakdown are high, and prevention of the most common catastrophic injuries sustained by racehorses, for example fetlock injuries, will have the greatest impact in reducing injuries to jockeys. You can help prevent jockey falls, injuries and fatalities by ensuring horses are thoroughly acclimatised and educated to race day conditions prior to them commencing a racing career, ensuring that horse and jockey combinations are well suited and that inexperienced jockeys are not put in a situation of riding an inexperienced or less accomplished horse that puts them at unnecessarily high risk of injury, being vigilant when it comes to training or racing a horse that it is at higher than normal risk for sustaining a catastrophic injury, and knowing how to detect signs of different types of racehorse injuries before they become catastrophic.
The references listed here will be useful if you are interested in learning more about prevention of jockey and exercise rider falls and injuries. The email contacts for Dr. Hitchens, Dr. Stover, and others involved in developing this and other modules in this series are listed on the left of the screen. For additional information on the J.D. Wheat Veterinary Orthopedic Research Laboratory's Racehorse Injury Prevention Program at UC Davis, click on the top button on the right under Further Information. For additional courses for continuing education credit for horse racing licensees, click on the Grayson Jockey Club Advanced Horsemanship Continue Education button on the right of the screen. Thank you for watching.